Here's an expanded, seamless rewrite of the full narrative script as a flowing, continuous story with no headings, section breaks, or interruptions. Just pure dramatic storytelling in first-person voice, polished for better pacing, vividness, and engagement while preserving the original's folksy, revenge-fueled spirit. I've lengthened descriptive moments, deepened emotional beats, sharpened dialogue, and smooth transitions for a more immersive read, perfect for narration or video script. The smell hit me first, thick diesel exhaust and the sharp bite of fresh concrete where my grandmother's roses once bloomed in neat rows. Then came the roar of bulldozers grinding over soil that should have echoed only with roosters crowing at dawn. I stood in my driveway, still in my crisp Washington suit, staring at a wide ribbon of concrete slicing straight through 4 generations of family farmland. While I was in D.C., testifying before Congress about protecting rural America and its crumbling roads, my own HOA had turned my heritage tomato fields into their private runway. $180,000 in organic crops gone in days. My great-grandfather's century-old oak declared a safety hazard, reduced to splinters. Our 1924 family well poisoned by construction runoff that turned the water brown and bitter. But the real gut punch came when I confronted HOA President Morgana Blackthorne. Yes, that's her actual name, straight out of a Disney villain casting call. She clicked across my ruined garden in sky-high designer heels, handed me a crumpled $50 Home Depot gift card, and chirped, "This should cover your damages, sweetie." Record scratch. Honey, you just picked a fight with the wrong farmer. What would you do if your HOA destroyed your livelihood while you were serving your country? Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from and whether your HOA president is as unhinged as mine. Let me take you back to how this nightmare unfolded. My name is Ezra Whitlock, 4th generation on this 40-acre spread just outside Millbrook Falls, Iowa. My great-grandfather Josiah cleared the land in 1890 with nothing but an axe, a plow, and mule-headed stubbornness that still runs in my veins. Every morning at 5:30, I brew coffee the way he did, strong enough to wake the dead, while bacon fat sizzles in the cast-iron skillet Grandma left me. There's a quiet power in the crunch of frost-covered gravel under your boots at dawn, the rich scent of fresh-turned earth mingling with morning dew. That's home, the kind that sinks into your bones. 6 months earlier, President Martinez had appointed me U.S. Secretary of Transportation. It sounds grand until you realize I trade every fancy D.C. dinner for one quiet evening checking irrigation lines, listening to water hum through aluminum pipes. But America's infrastructure was crumbling, and they figured a guy who'd spent his life dodging potholes on farm roads might actually know how to fix it. My wife, Delilah, runs the best farm-to-table restaurant in 3 counties, turning our organic heirloom tomatoes and sweet corn into dishes people drive hours for. Our 16-year-old twins, Sage and Rowan, handle a combined harvester better than most adults handle parallel parking. Sage has her mother's sharp business mind, already sketching agricultural marketing plans for college. Rowan reads Weather in the Way Cattle Cluster, instincts that skip generations. Then paradise met reality. 10 years ago, suburban sprawl crept toward us like kudzu after a wet spring. Developers built Millbrook Falls estates, McMansions with pretentious names like the Wellington and the Kensington, as if fake British aristocracy belonged in Iowa corn country. What's next? The Earl of Cornfield Manor. Enter Morgana Blackthorne. Her parents must have had a crystal ball or a twisted sense of humor, because she grew into the name perfectly. She moved from California 3 years ago, got herself elected HOA president almost immediately, and launched a crusade to elevate neighborhood standards. Picture clicking designer heels on concrete, tap, tap, tap like an anxious woodpecker. Floral perfume so strong, it makes real flowers smell apologetic. A nasal voice that carries across 3 properties during her daily quality inspections. Fancy word for snooping and writing violation tickets. Substitute teacher energy mixed with homeowners association dictator. Fashion sent straight out of Dallas reruns. Last April, she knocked on our farmhouse door with a thick stack of legal papers and that politician smile that screams trouble. Behind her stood her personal lawyer, Because of course she brings backup to a neighborly chat. "Ezra, sweetie," she chirped, "we have a teensy problem with your unused agricultural land." Unused. I was practicing crop rotation, a technique older than the Roman Empire. But buried on page 47 of the HOA bylaws was a clause. Unused agricultural land may be repurposed for community benefit. Her version of benefit: an $85,000 special assessment for a community aviation facility, a private runway, because apparently Iowa farmers desperately need one. When I laughed, genuinely laughed, she dropped the sweet act. "Your government position means you've abandoned your property responsibilities," she snapped. "Real community members invest in improvements. Small-town corruption works like this." Morgana's husband, Bradley, is our local magistrate judge. Their nephew, Vernon, handles all HOA legal work. It's a family enterprise, except instead of running a restaurant, they're running a protection racket. They scheduled their emergency HOA meeting for the exact week I was testifying in Congress on rural infrastructure funding. Coincidence? As likely as Morgana showing up to a farm auction in heels. The vote passed 4-1. Only our 80-year-old neighbor Cornelius Murphy voted no. Construction started 48 hours later. They hit my heritage tomato greenhouse first. $40,000 in climate-controlled systems and rare heirloom varieties I'd spent 8 years perfecting. The sound of reinforced glass shattering under bulldozer treads still wakes me at night, like hearing your grandmother's china cabinet get smashed by a freight train. But Morgana wasn't content with destruction. She got creative. 3 days later, a nervous process server delivered a cease and desist thicker than Delilah's cookbook collection. The fancy legal jargon boiled down to stop interfering with authorized community improvements or face federal ethics charges. Morgana had twisted my position, claiming I couldn't fight back without risking my cabinet roll. Fight the HOA and lose my job, or watch them destroy my farm and keep serving the country. A perfect mousetrap, courtesy of nephew Vernon. The local paper, the Millbrook Falls Gazette, ran a front-page hit piece the next day, painting me as Al Capone with a pitchfork. Transportation Secretary puts personal farm before public service. Hobby farm. Tell that to the 4,000 tomato plants they've buried under concrete. While Delilah stress-baked enough chocolate chip cookies to feed an army, I dove into the permits like a man with a grudge and a forensic eye. The construction papers were dated 3 days before the HOA vote. Someone was so sure of their rigged outcome, they'd filed early. Better yet, invoices showed payments from Blackthorn Investment LLC, not the HOA fund. Morgana wasn't just stealing my land. She was laundering the theft through her own company. Iowa farm justice is simple. When something's broken, you fix it. I filed for an immediate stop work order with the County Planning Commission. Then I dropped the hammer they'd never see coming. Every property owner should know this. When HOAs form around existing properties, original uses get prior non-conforming use protection under most state laws. My farm predated their HOA by 90 years. Their covenants had the legal weight of tissue in a tornado against my grandfather's rights. I call my EPA friend Dr. Sarah Chun, who owed me from a watershed funding favor. "You're telling me they built a runway over an underground stream without review?" she asked. "That's not illegal. That's spectacularly stupid." Within 48 hours, EPA investigators swarmed the site, sampling soil and water. That stream feeds Mill Creek, drinking water for 1,200 families downstream. Federal penalties for groundwater contamination make tax evasion look minor. The town split like a rotten fence post. Old-timers rallied with Cornelius. Newer HOA folks worried about property values. The diner became silent territory. Conversations died when you walked in, leaving only clinking cups and awkward chewing. Morgana hired private security to protect the site, conveniently blocking my access to the 1924 well pump house my grandfather built by hand. Delilah's restaurant bled money, forced to buy bland commercial produce that tasted like defeat. Every morning the diesel roar replaced meadowlarks, and I knew she'd picked the wrong farmer. Morgana escalated by hitting my wallet hard. A certified letter arrived. $500 daily fines for my agricultural eyesore next to their improvement. Retroactive, $12,000 in 3 weeks. Interest piling like weeds. They placed liens on my property, then got my farm insurance canceled for aviation hazard proximity from their illegal runway. Irony thick enough to spread on toast. Diesel fumes mixed with breakfast. Even our old tabby cat hid under the table. Cornelius, bless his 82-year-old heart, had been snapping photos of every truck and machine. Something stinks, he said, showing me permit numbers on his ancient digital camera. Turns out no FAA authorization existed. You can't just build a runway like a roadside stand. Federal rules demand years of reviews. I filed FAA complaints and used whistleblower provisions from my old county planning days. Citizens reporting violations can claim part of fines recovered. Morgana played checkers. I moved my queen across the board. Delilah organized a heritage farm support market in the town square, bluegrass, apple pie, community healing. The high school environmental club adopted our polluted stream as their project, teenagers with testing kits and righteous fury. Sage developed stress asthma from dust. Her inhaler puffs at night cut deeper than any fine. Rowan's prize 4-H lamb stopped eating from machinery noise. Delilah cornered me with a wooden spoon. I didn't marry you to become a widow early. Then the gas line got severed during runway lighting install. Evacuation for 18 hours in a motel smelling of carpet cleaner, wondering if our farmhouse would survive. Morgana shrugged. Act of God during legitimate construction. That lit a fire hotter than August hay. A week later, my government salary leaked across Facebook groups, painted as an out-of-touch elite. She launched a petition for my resignation, claiming conflict of interest. Media picked it up. Transportation Secretary's farm scandal. Salvation came from Cornelius. One gray October morning, he brought a dusty shoebox. His late wife Martha's records as county clerk from 1987 to 2009. Buried inside, the 1924 Burlington Northern Railroad right-of-way deed. Federal easements don't vanish. They persist for future transportation use. Morgana's runway sat squarely on it, and the corridor stretched 300 feet each side, swallowing HOA pools, tennis courts, even part of her mansion. She'd known about it. Her lawyer mentioned it in 2019, betting no one would enforce a dead easement. Wrong bet. As secretary, I had authority under Title 49 to protect interstate commerce corridors from encroachment. One call could order removal of everything, costs on violators. I gathered my war counsel in the farmhouse kitchen. Cornelius for intel, retired law professor Esther Goldstein for strategy, local editor Jasper Kellerman for money trails, Delilah on coffee and community. We built the case quietly. Surveys confirming violations, EPA deepening their probe, whistleblower filings. Morgana offered $700,000 cash for silence. Delilah recorded it from a window. Bribery to a federal official. Catastrophic. Federal investigators targeted Judge Bradley. He recused or faced charges. Morgana's empire cracked. 60 Minutes aired the HOA takedown scheme, hidden footage of her coaching others on property grabs. She tried fleeing with cash at O'Hare, caught. At the packed town hall, I presented the easement deed, aerials, surveys. When she screamed overreach, I delivered the line. As U.S. Secretary of Transportation, I hereby order immediate removal of all structures violating Federal Easement 49 IA 1924 BN under Title 49 U.S.C. Section 10101. Cheers erupted. FBI cuffed her on live TV. Fraud, conspiracy, environmental crimes, laundering flight. Demolition crews tore up the runway with seized funds. Cleanup cost millions. The stream healed. Fish returned. Morgana got 6 years and $4. $2 million restitution. Family disgraced. HOA dissolved. My farm rebuilt stronger. Delilah expanded. Kids thrived. The Heritage Farm Festival now draws thousands, funding scholarships via the Whitlock Foundation. The Family Farm Protection Act passed, inspiring laws nationwide. Now, every morning I walk restored fields, coffee in hand, breathing corn and dew instead of diesel. Cornelia stops by. We stood up to bullies, didn't we? Damn right. Share your HOA horror story in the comments. You might star in our next one. If you loved watching justice crush petty tyranny, subscribe and hit the bell for more David versus Goliath wins where the little guy comes out on top.